Thank you.
You know what I love about these groups is that everybody really likes each other. And you can see, everybody likes each other.
We're very unlike.
There's a problem over here.
Unlike.
There's a little conflict going on here.
She knows we love her.
Yeah, no, I'm joking.
Usually Dale and Carolyn sit in the back row and talk and razz each other. So now
Well,
we're actually
that's their
separated.
job,
so
right?
it's
That's
okay.
their job.
So we're going to go ahead and begin today's workshop, which is Releasing the Chains of Fear, Reclaiming Your Power and Life. And first of all, before I begin, I would like to acknowledge each and every one of you for being here, because it takes a lot of courage to come to a workshop about fear. So I'm sure you had fear about coming. And I think more importantly, there are other people who didn't have the courage to come, or who knew that they needed this workshop and just didn't step forward. So I really encourage you, whether you stepped out on your own or you were encouraged by somebody else too. So, and they also may still be paralyzed by fear. That happens a lot in life. That is part of what happens in our own human capacity, and they wish they could be here. And so bravo to all of you for being here. And this actually builds your courage muscle. So for those of you, well actually every one of you, you'll walk away with a lot more amazing tools to help yourself in everyday life. So what you're going to be learning today is, what are the root causes of fear? What is the purpose of fear in your human capacity? How to get clear about how fear can affect you in your everyday life. You can discover how you can transmute your fear to have a new relationship, a supportive relationship, not a restrictive relationship, in your life. And you'll be able to create actionable steps and affirmations to support you and your new relationship with fear. So we have some awesome activities today. What does fear look like? I mean, it's a very fearful picture, although that could be a horror picture too. So, you know, just depending upon how fear affects you. Some people are literally paralyzed. They have fear show up in their life and they are stuck, they can't do anything. And other people might just have fear show up as a small piece in their life. And from my own experience, I chose to not look at fear. When fear showed up in my life about moving forward, I was paralyzed. I didn't do anything. And so what I did was I stayed busy and I ignored it. And so I just kind of shoved it down. It was easy to just shut down and just leave it alone. So that was my capacity. And everybody does something different. I have a friend who, anytime something shows up that's different, she moves into negative future thinking, the what ifs, what would happen if, and it just escalates, and she creates all these stories, and she lives in fear and anxiety because of that, and she's aware of it, but it's part of her experience in life to be able to work on that. She's not here today, but someday she perhaps will do the work. So, what are the root causes of fear? This is actually a quote from dictionary.com. It says, "It is a distressing emotion aroused by impending danger, evil, pain, etc. Whether the fear is real, or the threat is real or imagined, the feeling of a condition of being afraid." And so that sounds like textbook, but it is, remember this, whether it is real or imagined, because it's our perception that can actually take us into that negative space. But fear is an innate emotion. It is actually one of those natural emotions that we are born with in our human condition that moves us into fight or flight or freeze. Fight or flight is really what happens in our, our primitive state. And freeze is actually what can happen if something is traumatic or horror. So that's where it's like, you don't know what to do. Fear is your perception of the imagined future catastrophe resulting from what you're afraid of doing. So it's the future catastrophe. And fear is just an emotion. However, it begins as a thought and then moves into our physiology and then becomes anxiety and panic. So the beating heart rate, the sweaty palms, etc., then it becomes all of us. And over a period of time, if somebody lives like this continuously, can manifest into illness and disease. So what is the purpose of fear in your human capacity? Number one, it's for safety and security. That's the innate feature, is to keep us safe. To protect you from danger, whether it's not running out into the street. We teach our children those things. They're not born with that fear. They're born simplistic and innocent. We tell them, don't run out in the street. And that's part of them learning that, and at some point in time they do learn that, but it depends on how they learn it too. Also to protect you from others that may harm you. So in your capacity of knowing that something might be dangerous, whether it's an experience that you had it happen before, a memory, etc. And to protect you from making mistakes. So if you make a mistake in the past, your fear can stop you. That was me. If I made a mistake or if I failed at something, my fear was doing it again because I was afraid it was going to fail again. Why do that? And you may have heard this story. I'm not sure Mark heard this story. It's my water skiing story. So I could never get up on water skis. My brothers would tell me, get back in the boat and think about what you're doing wrong. Well, guess what I did? I did that. So the more I thought about what I did wrong, the more I was afraid to do it. And so then
what you thought you were doing that was right.
yeah. And so, and that's okay. That's what brothers are for. is to help you.
Oh, yeah.
More time to land the boat.
That's
We're
right.
trying to.
And then I felt bad because I didn't want to take up their time. But it's funny, the first time I water skied with other people, I got it the first time. And so part of that was my own mind taking me to that place again too, that fear. So it's about making mistakes. And we all make mistakes. We learn from our mistakes too.
Absolutely.
And to align yourself, and also to align yourself with the fear of your parents or your culture. So, our parents could have told us things that, was a fear from their future, their past. I have a friend who I watched her raise her child, and everything that came out of her mouth was, Madison, don't do that. Don't jump. Don't go in the street. A car's going to hit you. Madison, don't touch that. It's going to be a disease. Madison, don't get near that dog. It's going to bite you. So every time she told her something, she gave her a story of what would happen. So you can imagine what that does to a child, bringing those fears, because,
Scared to do anything.
right. So they just move into that. Right now my granddaughter is 2, and she's just in that phase where she has no fear, and she loves to run up and down steps, and I want her to learn how to, do things. And so here I didn't hold her hand as she was going downstairs. Well, she took a dive, and she scraped her nose, and I felt bad, and her mother was not happy with me. And there's a part of it where, we fall, and we pick ourselves back up. She was fine. So,
Was
it's
that
other
when you're
people.
taking your course? I'm just kidding. The fear course, right? For the daughter.
That's okay. And she has her own lesson. So,
Of
and her mother told me yesterday. She goes, "It's too bad it happened." She goes, "Underclock." She goes, "That's not the first time she's gonna fall."
Yeah.
That's good.
So, yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. So I stopped. I did not beat myself up too much after that. So, or to affirm your irrational beliefs or belief system. We can create rational beliefs about what if. It could be that you have fear of, and I'm just going to say this about relationships with men, etc., because your irrational fear is that all men are bad, all men are cheaters, whatever it might be. And so it's an irrational fear, but it's from an experience of your past. And so, and it can move into your belief system if you have it there long enough too. But that's the fear. Also to affirm old message patterns from your conscious or unconscious. That message to me was, get back in the boat and think about what you're doing wrong. It was, it was conscious, but sometimes they're unconscious messages. Sometimes it could be something you don't even realize, because our unconscious messages actually motivate 93% of our brain capacity. The rest of it is the conscious part of it. So there are things that's like, why do I do this again and again? And truly it is something in your unconscious. And I experienced went through a lot of training in the past month and a half after my visit to Miraval. And Denise experienced this too. It's a gentleman named Brent Baum, who is a facilitator out at Miraval, who really focuses on trauma and memory trauma, and about the conscious and unconscious and how powerful our unconscious is. So he's got an amazing book that I've been reading, and it really is amazing to see what motivates us in our life that we don't even know about. And being in this type of environment allows you to look at that. So let's get clear about how fear can affect you in your everyday life. Number one, it's your loss of your inner power. When you find yourself frozen and you're afraid of such and such, your power, you can't move forward. I have a friend who is struggling with the fear of a very negative boss. And they are afraid of what could happen, what this boss could do to them. And so it's created just so much panic and anxiety in them about what they could do to hurt them. So that's that paralyzing fear.